Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm your host, Nicole, and we're going to be diving into one of the centers today. This is a question that comes up a lot inside of our Human Design Lab, which is our membership. Now, we've had a few people with open throats that have been asking about this center and how this works for them and how they can use it in their business and their life and how they can start to work with this energy. And I thought this would make a great episode. So we're going to talk about it here because we haven't done the throat center. We haven't just specifically spoken about that and done a deep dive into this particular center. So I wanted to do that in today's episode. I'm excited to bring this to you because this is the center of manifestation and communication. And especially if you are an entrepreneur or in your career, you are trying to use human design to be more in alignment and to step into the biggest version of you, the most authentic version of you. Authenticity comes from a lot of the ways that we present ourselves, the way that we communicate, the way that we put ourselves out there, the action that we take. So much of it is that, and that's what the Throat Center is all about. Now, before we get started, I did want to mention that the Human Design Lab is open. You can go to nicolelano.me/lab and you can check out what we have for you there. That is our monthly membership. If you're looking to dive into your design and get more in tune with yourself, start to understand your design and learn how to actually use it, not just go beyond just the understanding, but really taking this to another level of playing with it and getting feedback and meeting other people who are on that journey, that is definitely the place that you want to be. So check that out at nicolelano.me/lab. And then we also have a new free guide for you guys. So this is specifically for those people looking to build a podcast. Now, you're listening to me on this podcast. This is my favorite thing that I get to do besides coaching people. I absolutely love this show. And there is a way to build your podcast according to your human design. And we created a free guide for you specifically on that, giving you some tips and basics on how to structure your podcast according to your human design type. So we went through all 5 types and talked about how you could create a podcast in alignment with your specific design. If you'd like to check that out, if you'd like to download that, it's a completely free guide. Go to nicolelano.me/podcast by design, all one word, all lowercase. So check out that guide that is there for you for free and let me know what you think about it. I would love to get your feedback on how that hit you and what your greatest takeaway was from it. So let's dive into the episode. Now, the Throat Center, like I said, it is the center of manifestation and communication. Obviously, it sits right where our throat is. And honestly, 70% of the world has this center defined, but I would say maybe half of them are really using it in the way that it should be used, in the way that's truly authentic to them. And a lot of that has to do with just because you have something defined does not mean that it is in alignment, does not mean that it is healthy. So we often think of the open centers as being the places where you're conditioned. It's a different way that it falls out of alignment, but it's just as likely to fall out of alignment if you grew up in a household where maybe girls were told that they should be seen and not heard. If you were told that you talked too much, even in jest. I think I've talked about how like my dad used to say that you started talking at 2 years old and you haven't stopped since. And he meant it as a joke, but I remember that hitting me and I remember feeling like I talk too much. And that's where the nurturing conditioning happens to us, where we're told that the thing that we are, as kids, we're naturally using the definition that we have because we haven't learned any differently. And it's just what's happening. It's just what's coming out of us. It's just what's authentic, right? It's what is naturally flowing. And then someone comes along and tells you that what's naturally flowing is not good, is not desirable, is something that annoys them. And if it's somebody who you care about and you care about what their opinion is, or you want them to love you, then that's how we become conditioned in these centers. It's just a different way that it happens. Whereas if you have a center open, or anything open, just being in the presence of somebody who has it defined, it's starting to change you. That's what conditioning is. I'm being conditioned by the environment that I'm in. I'm conditioned by the person who is in my aura right now. I physically am being conditioned by them. That's the difference between healthy and unhealthy defined center versus conditioning of an open center. I am not receptive as a whole in my throat center because I'm defined there. I have that. I am receptive in the open gates in my throat center, but I have an open root. I am open. I am receiving that energy from everybody around me who has definition there. I am always receiving root center pressure, root center motor energy. I am always receiving that and having to deal with the way that I receive that. Whereas my throat center, I am not. I am the transmitter of that energy. But it doesn't mean that a concept can't tell me that the way that I am is not right. So that's what we're overcoming. We're overcoming two different things, okay? So when we talk about manifestation, we don't mean it in the way that we typically hear us talk about manifestation, particularly in the coaching business, or if you're thinking about the law of attraction. Manifestation in human design, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about with the throat center is manifestation is about action. It is about the ability to take action. And so it's the center of communication, having a fixed way of communicating, having an authentic way of communicating for you. And then it's about taking action, manifesting something. So that's where our manifestors as a type, what they have is they have a channel, which is a motor to the throat center that says, I can take action without anybody's help. That's what it's doing. That's what that channel is doing, and it's giving them the flavor of the way that they take action. Now, a manifesting generator is going to be slightly different. They're going to have some motor connected to the throat, but we still have to wait. We still have to wait. So how does this manifestation and communication work? Communication with the throat center, there's 11 gates in the throat center. That's why it's the most common to have defined, because there's so many opportunities for it to be defined, because there's 11 gates. So if you have a completely open throat center with no gates activated, that's pretty rare, because there's so many opportunities for them to be activated, for even one to be lit up in your design. So if you have it completely open, most people who have an open or undefined throat center think of this as a big handicap. There's a lot of stress around it. Can I be successful with an open throat? First of all, there's lots of people that are successful with an open throat. But can I be successful and in alignment with an open throat? It's just learning to work with things a bit differently. And the concept, like you need to be omnipresent on social media, that your message needs to be so targeted and so specific, those things might feel very difficult for you. Can I have a podcast with an open throat center? Can I be a successful entrepreneur with an open throat center? Can I have a consistent message with an open throat center? Yes, you can. It's just going to be very different for you how that comes to be. It's not going to be necessarily that you have this one way of delivering a message. And the more you can be accepting and fall in love with the way that things change and surrender to your strategy and authority, the more authentically it will come out. And every time it's different, it'll be perfectly different every single time. Now, everything is in the context of the rest of your design too. A reflector with an open throat is going to have a very different authenticity overall in their life and what's right for them than someone who has 7 centers defined and the open throat is one of the ones that's open. So it's all in the context of your regular design. Now, how we communicate, the way in which we communicate, this is something when we talk about messaging by design, and when I get into that, when I help people craft their actual podcast, like what is the message of your podcast? I do look at the throat center. And this is one of the things we go into in that free guide, in the Podcasting by Design guide, is there are certain types where I think you're sort of crazy if you don't have a podcast unless you truly don't want one. But there are certain design types that your voice carries such resonance. So if you're a manifestor and you don't have a podcast, or you're not using your voice somewhere in your message, then you're missing a key piece of what people are drawn to from you. Now, how you use that is very specific to your specific design. Manifesting generators, the same thing. There's going to be a way that you communicate that is easier for you, that's going to carry the strongest vibration, that's going to make you feel the best and like you are flying because you are so authentically you and things just flow that you're like, I could do this every day. But manifesting generators, it's all going to come down to response. Are you responding? Are you in response when you're speaking? Again, when we talk about like the open throat, the undefined throat being this handicap, the key with that is you've got to wait. You have to surrender to the fact that you're not meant to be talking all the time. That you are here to follow your strategy and authority to the right places with the right people who are going to ask you the right questions, who are going to open the space for you to speak, to ask you something, to invite you to speak. And when they do, the exact right thing will come out. And because you are open, you will say it exactly the right way that they need to hear it, or that the people there need to hear it. Why? Because you're mirroring it back. Because you are taking in their energy of their communication, and you will naturally become that. But if you're pushing and if you're worrying about if you will have the right words, which is what I see a lot of open throat center people do, they're so afraid and they're trying to plan everything and they're trying to tick every box. And it doesn't work. It never feels good. They never feel secure. So they don't feel right taking action. And then they think it'll never work for them because it always feels that way. The way that you work with an open throat is to surrender or to be in places where you are engaging with life and you are given things to respond to. That's how it works. Now, if that sounds like that's not convenient or easy for you or possible for you, then this is exactly how the not self starts to rule your life. We're ruled not by what we are, but by what we're not. And that's why we experience pain, we experience challenge, things don't go the way that we want. We are fighting through resistance all the time because we've got an idea about how things should be, right? But it is not our definition and our true gifts that are leading that charge. It's our openness that's telling us we're not enough in these places. We need to work harder in these places. We have to push from these places to get what we want. Because that's what's worked for other people, because that's what we've heard the gurus say, because that's what we've read on social media. For whatever reason, we've taken in information that says it has to be this way. And we come back and we say, okay, I'm going to go and be that. And you're going to amplify that. You're going to really push through the places that you're open. So the open throat is always asking, how am I going to get the attention? How am I going to get more attention? How am I going to attract attention? It's always thinking about that. How am I going to get eyeballs on me? How am I going to get people to hear this? How should I put myself out there? How do I say this? How do I say it perfectly? How do I craft the perfect message? And it comes from a place of lack. I'm not enough. I've got to make sure I have this perfect. I got to get more. I got to get more. I got to get more. Rather than trusting that the exact right thing will come if you fall back onto what is consistent, what is defined, what is authentic to you, which the strongest pieces of that will be whatever your strategy and your authority is. If you're a sacral being, your sacral is so much stronger, reliable, and more authentic to you, and will tune your energy to start attracting the right things to you. You will bring the right things to you than that open throat center that you have that you're putting so much emphasis on. So the way that the throat center works is if you've got it defined, the way that the definition is going to work for you, your authentic message is going to come from what's connected to your throat. Is it your identity center? Is it your mind? Is it your emotions? Is it your ego? Is it your spleen? What connects to your throat? Is there a motor there? Is there something that's pushing it? What's the gates that are activated? All of that is how we start to dissect what the message is and how you can deliver it in the way that's the most authentic to you. Now, this is the keynoting. This is something that we go through in a reading. We cover it high level in my Unshakable Entrepreneur program. This is where we go into it in depth, where I work with you over the course of 6 months, and we dial in everything down to your podcast. If you choose to launch a podcast, that's what we do with you in there. But this is the work, and this is how you can start to fine tune. But you got to know what's there, but you have to also know what's that openness that's pulling you away from that authenticity. Because particularly when you just start out and you start working with this, that's going to be far stronger than the definition that you have. All of that potential and possibility that exists in everything that's colored in your design is so buried beneath the parts of you that feel like they're not enough. So it's knowing the possibility that's there, but it's also about knowing that not self that's pulling you away from it every moment of every day. So if you've got an open throat, recognize that the devil on your shoulder is telling you, how do you get attention? I wonder if we'll get attention there. Something comes to you, and if you're a generator, and you get a response, ooh, podcast. I don't know, will we get enough attention there? Stealing the joy from it just to figure out, can I fill this open space with this thing? And that's when it doesn't feel good. And that's when it doesn't turn out the way that you want. You've got to surrender and say, I'm enough as I am. I don't need to satisfy and feed the beast of my not self that is so hell-bent on pulling me in the direction of my conditioning. So I hope that this sheds some light on the throat center and how it works and what magic it can be. If you have it defined or you have it undefined, you are perfect the way you are designed. Once you surrender to the design, you can start to see that perfection in action, but not before then. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at your chart and you're seeing your throat and you're saying, oh, there's no motor connected to it, that sounds better. Or, oh, it's undefined. Ugh. Oh, I have a split, so my throat isn't connected to the stronger parts of my design. That's me. My throat's not connected to my authority and to my type. So there's a challenge there. There's a difference there. But there's one very simple thing. You follow your strategy and authority and it all starts to come together. The right people come in and bridge you. The right things come in where the words just flow out. Me surrendering to my design, and particularly my throat center configuration, where it's not connected to my sacral, it's not connected to my solar plexus, which is my authority, my emotional authority. So to understand that there are two parts of me, that the way that I communicate and the way that I quote unquote manifest, the action that I take actually doesn't come from my strategy and authority. They feel like they are split apart. It's very interesting. Now, in the beginning, I felt like I was pulled in two directions. I felt like things were missing. But as I surrendered to my design, started to see how the flow worked, understand how I'm built, then I could really work with it and work with my energy. I love me. I really do. I love my design. I love who I am. And human design has allowed me to really look at myself from that place of total acceptance and self-love. Nothing else ever gave me that. And I hope it's starting to do that for you. I hope that episodes like this and the other ones that we've done here, we're almost at 200 episodes. I hope that this show is, above all things, helping you live more authentically. But more importantly, I always say, I hope that human design is helping you every day more and more love the shit out of yourself. Because that's what life is about. And when you love the shit out of yourself, everything just starts to get a lot easier. You have a lot more compassion for yourself. The failures you don't take personally. You're able to live in alignment with the design that you've been given and ultimately what you're here to do. Not what you think you're here to do or not what would please others. Just you. Being you. So I hope this is helping you love being you. Grab that free Podcasting by Design guide at nicolelaino.me/podcast by design if you're interested in starting a podcast. Or if you've started one already and it's not quite working for you, this might clue you into some tweaks that you can make. So please download that guide. It's totally free, and let me know what you think about it. If you love the show, please leave us a review and subscribe to the show so you don't miss any of our episodes. And if you're interested in hearing something specific on the show or want to dive in deeper into your human design, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Nicole Laino Official. You can send me a DM and ask a question. Maybe I'll answer it right here on the show for you. Guys, I love you. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode with me. Remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So I hope the show is helping you, and I hope you join us next time where we can continue helping you on the journey of becoming unshakable with human design. We'll see you then. If you love this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to nicolelaino.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.